Patrick McNair, and I'm your host of This Is Real. This is Raleigh. Thanks for tuning in. Today, our special guest is Carlos Mims. Carlos, welcome to This Is Real. This is Raleigh. How are you doing? How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing great.
Outstanding. So for those of you that might not know who Carlos is, Carlos, go ahead and introduce yourself to the general public.
Okay. My name is Carlos Mims. I'm the owner of Lifestyle Ownership. We teach people to own their lifestyle instead of financing it. I'm also principal owner of Trap Insurance Group, which is a company that helps us to protect such lifestyles that people have deemed that that's what they want.
All right. So, Carlos, you located in Raleigh, both of your businesses.
Yes.
All right. And you live in Raleigh. Your family's in Raleigh. Where you come from?
I'm originally from Fayetteville. My dad was in the Army for 32 years. Mm-hmm. And ironically, his whole career, for the most part, had us stationed at Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty. So all my education was done in Fayetteville. And then when I finished that, I told my parents I had to move away. Mm-hmm. I was tired of Fayetteville. Mm-hmm. And I actually went 60 miles north. Right. And ended up in Raleigh, and I've been here ever since.
So what brought you to Raleigh? Why Raleigh?
It was the atmosphere. It was, Fayetteville's a military town. Mm-hmm. When I came to Raleigh, I first got here when I was co-oping with the Department of Transportation. And I liked the difference. I mean, you had, politics, you had, if you really wanted to have a business, you had a real opportunity to be able to expand, to grow. You had RDU and Durham and Chapel Hill. So, and it was big enough for me to get a little bit of, I'm not going to say city because we're still a little town compared to DC or New York. Yeah. But it was bigger than Fayetteville. And I got a little taste of what I want and still have a little bit of that slowness country living.
Gotcha. All right. So you call Raleigh home today.
I do.
And why do you stay here in Raleigh?
First it was, when I had my kids, I liked the education system in Wake County for the most part. And everything I needed was here. Mm-hmm. Raleigh's still growing. They're still expanding. And for me, I can find enough stuff to do to keep me content.
All right. So I imagine that you're approaching the retirement age or the age that you will stop your main vocation.
It's ironic. I don't ever foresee myself retiring.
Okay.
Mainly because the company, Lifestyle Ownership, will allow me to do what I enjoy most for however long I want to do it. I don't consider that a job, work. I consider it pleasure to be able to help individuals, and I'll probably do that until I can do nothing else.
All right. So let's talk about retirement. In your mind, you're talking about not stopping your vocation, your passion, right? For as long as you can. Right. Playing golf, doing those other things.
Yes.
But a lot of folks out there in John Q. public world, they envision a time where they can sleep until they can't sleep no more. They can eat until they can't eat no more, but they're not punching the time clock, right? They're not reporting to anybody. And so with your lifestyle management system, is that something that you can coach people on, teach people on, kind of guide them down the path that if that's their choice, that they would have enough wealth or income at the end of their road to accomplish that?
For sure. I like to think of it like this, Patrick. When we all went to college and we decided on a major, mm-hmm. and the college gave us a piece of paper that told us how many credit hours we needed to graduate and what classes to take, mm-hmm. which basically mean we already knew what the end in mind was. And all we had to do was every decision that we made at that point had to be based off of that curriculum mm-hmm. until we graduate. So my take is take that same ideology and put it in life. Figure out what is the career that you enjoy, and then figure out the medium income, and then design your life around that income. How much of a house, the things you like to do, and then I've got an equation that I use for you to have the ownership number, and you work towards obtaining that ownership number. Mm-hmm. And once you get it, regardless of what age you're at, your life is already taken care of. So you can sleep, chill, play golf, or you can start doing some other things without the frustration and the worry of whether I'm going to keep my house, my car, or the other things in life that you accumulated.
In this society and a lot of societies around the world, we're taught to get as much money as we can, right?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Be damned, any consequences. It's just go get. And we're starting to see as a society today, in my opinion, the results of that greediness where, a loaf of bread is so much or this is so much. Everything is so much money. And in my mind, I directly relate that to if everybody wants a pay increase or an increase in income, the logical place for that money to come from is an increase in costs for goods and services, right? So they're kind of correlated. So with that in mind, going back to that equation you just talked about, where there's a constant uptick of cost of goods and services, does your equation that you spoke about kind of have that baked into like a cost of living adjustment per year for the next 10, 15, 20 years? How does that work for you?
Well, the neat thing is when you define your lifestyle, make it a numerical value, a numerical number, you can always change the number. So that's the thing is when we purchase stuff out of an emotional concept, we usually have buyer's remorse.
Yeah.
But if I know what my numerical number is with my lifestyle, bread may cost more, but I know how to tweak the system, or I know how to put more money in to compensate for that. And since there is an investment portion of this, then it's also based upon how much interest am I getting off of my investment. So it is kind of built in, and it also gives you the opportunity to either add to it or subtract. So it's not, I always say it's like a calculator. There's no button on the calculator that says emotion. You either have it or you don't. And if you know numerically, which everything in life is a number, you set your goals, that's a number. And you can change it and you can tweak it along the way. You might want a bigger house. Well, how much more do I need to put in the pot?
Right.
In your case, you might want that, that electric 150. How much more you got to put in the pot?
Hummer.
Oh, it's a Hummer now.
Hummer. Hey,
okay.
Electric
right.
Hummer. All-wheel drive. Yeah. Big boy. All right. So, right at the start of the brand new year, a lot of people are assessing their financial goals for the year. Are you seeing an uptick in customers right now who are thinking about, hey, Carlos, I'm really thinking about this. I want a new this. I want a bigger that. Are you seeing an uptick right now in the normal fiscal?
I am seeing an uptick, but it's not so much about the wants as much as it is about people evaluating what they have. I think that's the most important, especially since I know we're outside of the pandemic with COVID, but that had caused a lot of people to reevaluate where they are, what they have, and where they want to go. So the biggest thing is reviewing what do you have and what's really important. We always think about having something, but we don't take the time to figure out what's the maintenance cost. How do I maintain this which I have? That was a hard lesson for me a while back.
I saw a report the other day where it says that most Americans' bank accounts, their savings accounts, is almost depleted right now. And then I saw another report that says our GDP, gross domestic product, increased at a higher level than expected last quarter. So in my head, those two kind of correlate. More people spent money that they had, GDP goes up, and their savings go down. When you talk to your clients on their outlook, their wealth management, when you do that initial assessment, generally speaking, do you say that they have been doing a good job of just regular savings, or do you think they just don't have enough for that emergency fund for 6 months type thing?
Quite a few don't have the emergency fund, but it's not about the amazing thing is not about me passing judgment. It's about me informing them where they are.
Right.
They decide on their own whether they're doing good or whether they're not. My job is to show you where you are and what you've done. And then define for you your lifestyle budget and your what I call your survival budget. And most of us live off of a survival budget.
Check to check.
Yeah, check to check, what I got to do to live. But when you start, I know for me, I hate the word budget. I really did. My wife would tell you I used to break a budget every month because I felt like if I work hard and I make that money, I should spend it like I want. And those end up being very intense conversations.
Yeah.
And you know my wife.
I know.
But when we started reviewing it from a lifestyle perspective and about how quickly I could actually own my lifestyle to do the things I actually want to do, it curved how I spent. Because now all of a sudden, certain things just wasn't that important.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about, if you look at the landscape of Raleigh, a lot of growth right now. You have Major League Baseball thinking about a team. You got soccer thinking about a team expansion here. You have the Hurricanes doing their thing and talking about this new downtown that's going to be over there at the PNC. So a lot of growth, a lot of development, a lot of interest in this area. When you look at the landscape and you're thinking about how you were when you first moved to Raleigh, right? Oh, wow. Put yourself in those shoes, right? You're brand new, just getting off your family's, dependency, out on your own. Does Raleigh look like it is going to be one of those affordable places to live for someone, like I said, that was in your shoes when you first moved away from home?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. I don't know if it's going to be completely affordable. Mm-hmm. The biggest hang up is housing. Mm-hmm. And it's becoming difficult to be able to have a moderate job and be able to find a place to stay. Mm-hmm. Can it be done? Yes. But when I first got here, it was nothing to find a $600-700 one-bedroom apartment. Mm-hmm. Now those same apartments about $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 for 300, 400 square feet. Yeah. So when you talk about affordable, it's going to be hard because cost of living is not going to keep, or the paycheck is not going to keep up with the cost of living. So you're going to have to really search. And being in Raleigh, you may have to live outside of Raleigh. Yeah. To be able to afford to live, to do the things you want to do in Raleigh.
And that's the thing, just driving around the area, whether it be Wendell or Knightdale or Zebulon, yes. They're growing and growing and building. And it's just like the developers are a step ahead. Yes. And they're already snatching up the land to build subdivisions or apartment complexes or et cetera. So it's already, now you need to start looking at Dunn, right? Now you need to start looking at New Hill or other places outside that arc.
Yes.
That make up the greater Raleigh area, come to speak, so to speak. So that's good insight though. Again, thinking back to where you were when you first moved here, we're in a very desirable location in Raleigh. Everybody wants it, but you can't afford it.
It's one of those things where, the old saying, hindsight's 20/20, or if I knew back then what I know now, mm-hmm. I'd have done some things different. When we came up, Wendell was one of those outlying rural
cows,
cow country
pastures.
Place. Yeah. Homes were very affordable. Mm-hmm. About 2 years ago, we actually went to is it Falls, Wendell Falls, mm-hmm. right outside of 264, and the price that they were charging for homes was, way out of my ballpark for what I wanted to spend. Right. And I keep thinking, it's Wendell. Right. This is Wendell. This isn't Raleigh or Cary. Yeah. This is Wendell. Yeah. And that's the way it is now. You almost got to go to Franklinton. Yeah. To be able to. Yeah.
Just keep spreading further and farther away from the nucleus. Yeah. So let's talk about other things that are here. Raleigh. This is our home, right? This is where we're at.
This is it.
And this is real. This is Raleigh. You like that, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
When it comes to Raleigh, your kids are here. Do you think they enjoy living here in the Raleigh area and thriving, or are they looking to get away from Carlos and Mrs. Carlos?
My kids don't want to leave me. No. I don't care what they say. No, actually, I think, I have a son up in Marlboro. Mm-hmm. He has 2 boys, and he's a teacher, him and his wife. they would, here's the thing, they would love to come back to Raleigh. They've told me, said, Dad, I'd love to come back to Raleigh. They just don't pay enough. Mm-hmm. And see, that's the problem. You got people who want to come back to Raleigh, but the pay's not there. Yeah. And then my other son, he's out in Andrew. He has, as far as I know, he has no intentions of moving away further from Raleigh than where he's at, because he likes Raleigh. He knows Raleigh. He's been around. This is just, when you look at it from a family perspective, there's a lot of stuff you can do. Yeah. It's, you have your issues. Every city, town, whatever you want to call it, have issues, but there's so much positive opposed to the negative. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where my kids are. My 17-year-old still at the house. He's actually talking about moving out once he gets his revenue up to $5,000 a month. But he's talking about moving to his own place in Raleigh. He doesn't want to leave Raleigh. Yeah. So Raleigh offers young folks a lot of stuff, but you just got to be, it's how you implement your stay here.
When it comes to, this is a political year, right? Election year. When it comes to the leadership in Raleigh and Wake County, this area, what would you like to see them do to improve, whether it be affordability, whether it be roads, schools? What would you like to be number 1, 2, and 3 on your list of things that they could improve?
The first thing would be, I would really like a workable political system where it isn't about the parties, but it really is about the people. Raleigh have a tendency that whoever's in power wants to keep power, opposed to how people feel.
But is that Raleigh or is that politics?
I live in Raleigh.
Yeah, but that's politics. Give me power. I want it. I got it. I ain't going nowhere.
Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. Yeah. I really wish Wake County was more proactive than reactive. Mm-hmm. It's just like with the school system. You knew that a population was going to grow, so why not go ahead and buy the land and sit on it? Yeah. Worst case scenario, if you don't use it, sell it, because there's always going to be a developer that's going to want it, and then we would at least be able to afford more schools and things of that nature. So be proactive. Then we wouldn't have the issues with the that we had with the 540 and widened roads and the changes. Those two, is at the top, and you got to have affordable houses. You go downtown and you see a $70,000 house that's been there forever, right next to a $680,000 just freshly built home, and taxes is going to weed them out where they're gonna lose it, and I think that's unfair. The money shouldn't rule like that.
Yeah. But again, society, man is always going to mess something up. We are always going to mess something up.
Well, I would say I think that's the downfall of a capitalistic society. I like capitalism, but when greed steps in, that kills the whole system.
Mm-hmm. So as we close today, I know we talked about wealth management. We talked about living in Raleigh. How's your faith impacted how you have done business the last however long you've been doing business?
I've always operated with this one mindset, and I do believe in Jesus and the Lord as my Savior. I do believe that wholeheartedly, but I've always believed that God doesn't get me for what you do to me, but He'll get me for what I do to you. So I can't control what you do, but what I can control is how I respond. Mm-hmm. And I've been fortunate over the years that even in bad situations, I've come out on top. Didn't like it. Some of it was painful, but I've come out on top. And regardless of how other people feel, that's my mantra when I come to my faith. It's it's not about what you do to me. It's about how do I respond. Mm-hmm. What can you say that I did? Mm-hmm. I ain't perfect though.
Who is, right? Who is? There's a lot of churches in Raleigh. Have you noticed that?
Oh yeah, every corner.
I mean, it's like it's going out of style, or it's like there's somebody got the memo that you can make money building a church or creating a church or starting a church or using this facility to be a church. And it's just, how does that make you feel?
It's it's amazing that we all say we serve the same God, but we can't get along.
Mm-hmm.
I have a problem with that. And I do understand that we all have a baseline belief, but then we get into man's interpretation, and that's kind of where we mess up. If believers pursued the will of God like we pursue money, we wouldn't have a problem like we have today. Yeah. But we don't. We think money is that answer when it really isn't. So yeah, I hate it, but I kind of understand it. As long as God has given us free will, we gonna mess up, and we're gonna do what we think we want to do, and then bring Him in and say, yeah, this is what God say. Because you can't beat the God card.
When you look at society and the amount of crime or things that are going wrong in society, doesn't matter what it is, murder, robbery, violence, just on exponential levels. If you try to look at the counterbalance, in my mind, those churches that are propping up all over the place, I feel like society is crying out for help, right? There are people out there crying out for help to, like I said, counterbalance those evil forces out there.
I heard this in believe it or not, a rap gospel.
Gospel
song,
rap? Okay.
Gospel rap
Mm-hmm.
by NF. He said, in the church is where he found God, but he also found how to judge folk. And I think what the church does more than anybody else in the world is we pass judgment on people. When we as believers should just love you. It's one thing to say I love you, but I just don't like you right now. That, and I believe that's what God says to most of the folk that don't do what is. I love you. You my child. I love you. I just don't like you right now. and I think we gotta give people that space. Make your own decision, because I'm not the judge. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have to go before God, and He's gonna be the one to pass judgment. But I think we forget that people are people, regardless of where they came from, what they look like, what they've done. That's still a soul. That's still looking for help. And, in business, as you know, as I do, there's a saying, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Yeah. That should be the church mantra. Mm-hmm. Instead of worrying about whether you dress right, whether you're from this part of town, whether you're highly educated, it should be like, let me show you I care. Mm-hmm. And when you give people hope, that changes people's lives.
Yeah. This is the funny thing about this podcast, right? This is real. This is Raleigh. We don't have a script that we go by necessarily in what we try to talk about.
Right.
We did not intend to go religious today on this episode, I promise you. But you're getting edification. You're getting some light poured into your soul. So heed that call.
I'll put my Cash App for a donation.
The Church of Carlos is open for business. And this is real. This is Raleigh. All right. So as we close, Carlos, you have a wealth of knowledge. You've been here for a while. You know a lot of people in Raleigh. Some of your networks, like where are you connected business-wise? Where are you connected?
Right now, I'm actually looking at a BNI group.
Okay.
I think that's a great connection. I do some podcasting. I'm starting that up. It'll be launching next month.
Where are you going to be taping?
Where am I going to be taping?
Yeah.
This is going to be one spot.
There's a studio called the Raleigh Podcast Studio, 313 East Martin Street, downtown Raleigh.
Which is at the top of the list, mind you.
It's a nice studio.
Yes, yes, it is.
RaleighPodcast.studio. Go ahead and book your time. Get in and create your content. Go ahead.
And then I'll do at my office. I'll be doing some evening workshops or evening seminars of talking about lifestyle, how it works. Matter of fact, can I do a little plug?
Go ahead, do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
February the 24th from 9 to 12, I will actually have a 3-hour workshop. It's $100 a person, $150 for couples. We'll have myself, a tax preparer, and a financial planner to talk about, the 5 steps of lifestyle ownership. It's a great opportunity to ask questions and really get an insight of what it means. And, it's a process that me and my wife are living now. And we are an example of an individual that if you'd have met me years, well, you have met me years
I
ago.
guess so, yeah.
Yeah, you know, when my son was, what, six or
Something
seven?
like that, yeah. A little bad tail joker.
Yeah, he was. But, you know, yeah, my son, you know, he was, but thanks to Patrick and some other men at the Boy Scouts, started out with the Cub Scouts. My son ended up being an Eagle Scout, very mature, very responsible, and I got to give them credits. If it wasn't for them, I'm not sure what kind of relationship I would have had with my son.
Oh, you've been like this.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you, boy. I'm behind bars, but I'm going to get you.
Yeah. You know, he's out of high school, so he would have been gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was fabulous. But I went on, forgot the question.
Oh, you're talking about your event coming up on February 24th?
On the 24th of February. It's going to be a sort of a financial consulting where, you know, we can sit down and knock out some things of how to turn your life around, because we were over $150,000 in debt. And back then I looked the part of success, but I was not. I was broke. Mm-hmm. Now I am the part of success. Mm-hmm. And I thank God for that. And the lifestyle is based upon that. And we're going to do some lunch and learn. So I have a website. It's being worked on. It's called lifestyleownership.org. That's a place where I'll be putting all my events and where I am and where we're speaking at and things of that nature.
All right. Well, Carlos, I appreciate you taking the time to meet with us today, come in and impart words to this audience, this great following, this loyal audience of mine, and taking the time again to be on This Is Real, This Is Raleigh. And folks out there, hit us up in the comments section. Make sure you like us. Make sure you subscribe to us. And if you would like to sponsor an episode of This Is Real, This Is Raleigh, hit us up and we'll be in touch. Until next time.
Peace.
Love.
I don't even know what to